Welcome to Nexus Edge, the show that helps you get an edge on your competition. I'm, of course, Turd Herder, and I'm your esteemed host of Nexus Edge, and we're coming to you live with Season 9, Week 5 recap. This is a little something we like to call an awesome allocation of Div A. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Mr. Ryokai, how are you doing today?
Well, Gilly, did we get a win last week? We did. And we have another game this Thursday. Excited to talk about Div A, my home division, of course. So
no bias.
No bias, of course.
No bias. No bias. Yeah, we actually we lost the game of the week. That was incredible. Not super unsurprising. XGD is an excellent team, and it gave us our first loss. And I think I was telling some other people, I think it's pretty good to get a piece of humble pie this at this stage in the season. I definitely think we went into some replay analysis with our coach right away. 2 days of that actually, so we think we're doing all right. But that was only because one match took like an hour, so it happens. But yeah, enough about Div D. That was last week. Let's talk about Div A. It looks like first we're going to have the Div A East standings here. So let's take a look real quick. It looks like currently we have Sky 5 sitting right at the top. But you know more about this division, so why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit more about what's going on in these standings here?
Of course. So, Div A, definitely a very competitive division so far. We've got probably 6, 7, maybe even more teams that are still in contention for not just playoffs, the top spot of playoffs. And obviously the rest of the seeds down from there, still pretty much anybody's game to take them. There's a few teams down at the bottom trying to make those last few playoff spots. In HOTUS, Pixie Dusters, those are the main two kind of struggling right now, I would say. But sitting at the top, of course, Sky 5. They've been around NGS for as long as I've been in NGS. I think the past 3 seasons, probably even before that. So
I think in some form they were even here in Season 5, if not before that.
Yeah. They've been in Div A, and last season they bumped up to Heroic. And they did struggle a little bit in Heroic last season. But as we can see, they're doing pretty well in Division A East so far this season, dropping back down. They're probably one of the early favorites to win the division, or at least to do pretty strongly, even before the season got started and everything. And they've not really disappointed from that prediction. They're doing pretty well so far. So they've won all 5 of their matches. They've got 3 dominations. They, in the past, like to run a little bit of kind of their own pocket meta. They liked a lot of like Varian main tank. I think this was even I think this was Sonya and Rhaegar offlane they ran a lot. They played some Zarya. They played a couple like weird sort of niche heroes that weren't as popular, especially in seasons past, when I've played against them and alongside them. This season they're going a bit more standard. They've got some Johanna, some Mal'Ganis. They're going a bit more standard, and they're doing well. So there you go, changing it up. They had a little maybe easier schedule towards the first half of the season.
So far, yeah.
Yeah, but they're coming up on playing Parsony, Snag, Rosemary, and Line, Insomnia, Beast Coast, who are all top half-ish teams, if not top of the standings teams. All the points are pretty close, and with flex games and things like that, it's hard to tell where everybody's actually sitting in terms of strength in the division. But the next few weeks are gonna, finish up playoffs here, seeding. They're gonna tell us where everybody ends up and how good each of these teams actually are. So that's all I got.
Very nice. And another team that was at the top of the Div A standings, Gilly Shark, a team that you're probably familiar with.
A little bit.
Yeah. Gilly Shark took Season 8 off. But prior to that, in Season 7, they finished second in Div A again at that time. And they were knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So, coming back into Season 9, they've added you. They are currently sitting at a 9-5 map score, sitting at a comfortable 4th place. I think this is a division where 8 people make it to the playoffs. So in a 4th place position, that's pretty solid. You definitely want to be in the top half, and they're giving it to us. They have 9 players on rotation, although I think it's 8 now, if I'm not mistaken.
We had, I think, one person who's not likely to play in games. I'm not sure if that's like fully figured out yet. I don't know.
Just looking at team
I just show up
recruitment.
when I'm told. It's too complicated for me to keep track.
Yeah. So 9 or 8 people on rotation, and they're known to run all kinds of different comps. So making scouting a just complete nightmare. They run Samuro, Cho'Gall, Tyrael, not at the same time, obviously, but maybe.
We
I don't
might do
know.
that. Yeah. Knowing us, I don't even know.
There you go. And similar to Sky 5, their tougher matches are coming up in the later part of the season. So while they're comfortably at 4, it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. And if they plan to reach their max potential, they're definitely going to, if they do reach their max potential, they'll definitely be a top team in Div A East. And before we move on to Division A West, I'll talk. Oh, there's 2. Okay. I'll talk about a specific player from Division A East. I'll start with I'll talk about Winner if that's okay. Winterheart on Parsley, Snag, Rosemary, and Line. He's got a 64,000 average hero damage, which is second in the league, and 3.1k damage per minute, which is the second in the league as well. He's got 54 solo kills, which is third in the league, but only top of being a DPS. He's the top of being a DPS player. Winterheart also ranks among the top 10 in the XP column with some of his Abathur plays, among other things. Winterheart also has played 11 heroes in 14 games, so good luck choking him out of his preferred plays. So there you are. Why don't you talk about this next player from Sky 5?
Of course. So Alan by default. He's the main healer on Sky 5. He's got 73,000 average healing, which is third in the division, 3.9k healing per minute, which is second in the division, and he's first in KDA at 12.2. So he's definitely getting the numbers, stacking them up there. He's only died 5 times in the whole season. Only 5.
That's insane.
So that'll boost your KDA pretty well. There you go. So if your healer's staying alive the whole time and pumping out big numbers, you're probably going to win most of those fights. There you go.
Shocker.
It's pretty simple when you see some numbers like that. So
absolutely. And without much more being said about that, I do see Untapped Fear here. He's obviously the captain of 2C2T. So shout out to him. We're just talking about his division. But let's move on to A West. This is, of course, one of the double round robin divisions. So as we move into the second half of the season, these teams have already seen each other once. We're getting into a time when they've seen each other. They've seen the strats that team used against them. So I think we're going to start seeing, especially at this level of play, we're going to start seeing some interesting things happen. We're going to start seeing some adjustments in the play. Maybe we'll see people actually split series, which I think would be really interesting, really cool from an analyst perspective. But without much more, let's move right into it. Regen Retro, first team we want to talk about here. And we've looked at them a couple weeks back. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about them later this show, probably even later this season. They're still going strong in A West. They have yet to drop a match. They're sitting at a 12-3 map score atop the standings. Clearly the favorite to win A West so far. But it looks like Phoenix Rising Ruby's right on their tail. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, spoiler, foreshadowing, etc., etc. And that poses the next question. Will they continue to dominate the round 2 of the double round robin? Or will some of these A West teams learn from their potential mistakes, learn from their strategies? It's a really great question, and hopefully one we can answer this week. So why don't you go right ahead there?
Of course. So another A West team here, Minion Miners. They're a little bit flying under the radar, playing a little bit of dark horse this season. There's 2 regen teams in the division. There's Phoenix Rising. There's lots of organizational rivalries going on. So yeah, they're slipping under the radar. Minion Miners, they're third in the standing, 9-6 map score so far. The seeding could be important as for playoffs. I believe the top 4 make playoffs.
That's
and
correct,
then if they can avoid some of these top teams in the first round, especially, they might. This Minion Miners, they have like tricks up their sleeve. They play some weird meme comps, some cheesy stuff. So you might see some off-meta heroes if you tune into their games. They might start hiding in a little bit of stuff for playoffs as well. Himibo, especially on mini minors, he's played 10 different heroes in 14 games, so they definitely have a wide hero pool. He's played a Nova game, so shoutouts to Himibo getting the Nova game in there, checking that one off the stats for playing every hero. I should check up on that, how that's doing in Div A so far. So
very nice. And next two players that we wanted to highlight this week come to us from Tainted Orphans, one of the other teams in this division that isn't part of an organization. First one here is, I'm just going to say Reaver, I think it is. It's
Ravar,
spelled
I think.
Ravar, whatever it is. Reaver, Raver, it's something like that. Tainted Orphans, of course, is a team that puts out a ton of damage. They average 213,000 XP or damage per game, which is 33,000 higher than the second team in the division. So they're just putting out tons of damage. And a big reason for this is, of course, Reaver or Raver. 56 solo kills, 76k average hero damage with a damage per minute of 3.6 thousand, all being first in the division. So definitely putting up big numbers for his team, but not to be outdone. Why don't you talk about the next guy on Tainted Orphans?
Of course. So yeah, still on Tainted Orphans here. Will to Live. They're playing alongside Ravar, of course. 59,000 average hero damage, which is third. 2.7 thousand damage per minute, which is third, and a 9.2 KDA, which is fourth in the division. So they have two of the top 3 damage players. They're doing tons of damage. If Tainted Orphans can get, basically they have two basically main carries on their team. So 50% of the time you get one going, 50% of the time you get the other one going. There's probably some overlap in there. They can be a force to be reckoned with in those games. It's not where you can just shut down one player on a team and then you've shut down most of their output or ability to win fights or anything. You really got to counter the whole team composition as a whole, basically, in order to really shut them down and prevent them from having a big impact in the.
Absolutely. All right. And I think we should, usually we kind of talk here, we talk about some interesting stats from this division, but we got something extra special to talk about. This week, as far as I know, this is the first time this has ever happened. We have a double header game of the week. That's right. Two of them, Division A matches, are going to be played this week, one right after the other. And that's going to be our division or the game of the week highlight video. So starting us right off, we have the Division A East match between Parsley, Snag, Rosemary, and Line versus Beast Coast. And before there's any accusations of executive producer privilege or bias, these are a number 1 versus a number 2 seed team, or somewhere up there. I don't know if it's 1 and 2, but it's a very high team. And I think we'd be remiss not to highlight this game this week. And the other one, and you'll see that in a minute, and I've kind of alluded to it, is the Div A West game, Regen Retro versus Phoenix Rising Ruby, happening right after the Division A game, or A East game. And I guess just so I don't miss it, we're starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern with the Parsley, Snag, Rosemary, and Line match. And that's going to be over on right here on the main NGS Twitch channel. And it's going to be casted by none other than Slexia. So there we go. Let's talk about these fine teams. So I'll start with Parsley, Snag, Rosemary, and Line again. This is the core of this team. Played in in season 7 in Division A. This season they've added Winterheart, who's a very skilled player, as we've already mentioned earlier, topping the damage categories on the stats runs. They're currently 3rd in the standings with a 9-5 map score. Most of their games have gone to 3 games. They won 4 matches and have only 1 domination. I don't know exactly who that's from, but they lost their first match last week against Party Time, and it will be a good game to bounce back in this game of the week. And one of the players outside of Winter that we wanted to highlight for this game of the week is, of course, Snag. I think it's Snaganez. Snaganez, I've been told. I just call him Snag. It's easier that way. So when everyone that's a main tank is about Joanna and ETC, Snag has played 7 different tanks this season. I can think of probably 5, so I don't know what other 2 they are. It sounds like it's probably Varian and Uther main tank. He's got 81,000 damage taken, so he's soaking up a lot of damage. That's second in Division A East, and 44,000 damage taken per death, which is fifth. So a solid tank for the Parsley, Snag, Rosemary, and Line. The ratio may not be the best, but stats don't always indicate the full story. Snag definitely soaks up a lot of damage, and he stays alive long enough for his team to do the damage, namely Winter and the other DPS players. I think that's Bobo. So that's one reason why the game of the week will be interesting to watch, to see how Snag and the boys do. So why don't you talk about Beast Coast for us, Ryokai?
Of course. So on the opposite end of the matchup here, Beast Coast. Second season that Beast Coast is playing in Div A. They were also in Div A last season. Last season they were a bit middle of the pack, but this season they're moving on up in the world. They've rose to the top. They're being a top contender in the division so far. They've won also all 4 of their matches so far. They're sitting second in the standings, 8-2 map score. They've had 4 some probably tougher end opponents coming in the next 4 weeks. So we'll see if they can maintain that spot, or if there's just going to be even more of a close race here to the finish as the season finishes out here. But a player from Beast Coast we're going to highlight here, Munkus. Big part of the core Beast Coast roster here, Munkus. He's got a lot of insights on various heroes. He's been on Nexus Edge in the past for some hero analysis segments and things like that. But this season, Munkus, he's mostly focused on Deathwing and Mephisto. So 2 heroes. They can be a little bit rough to play if you're not in the right team comp for them, not having the right practice on them and things like that. But he's definitely got the practice. He's making them work. 56,000 average hero damage, which is 7th in the division, and 2.9 thousand damage per minute, which is also 7th in the division. So
Perfect.
That's rounding it out for Beast Coast.
Absolutely, and that is the first game of the week. So let us move right on to the second game of the week, the doubleheader here. The first team we're going to talk about here is Regen Retro, and I believe we've talked about them in the game of the week specifically before. So this is actually, I think, the first team to get 2 cracks at the game of the week apple here. Regen Retro, as we mentioned earlier, is the team to beat in A West. They play a team game. They don't have standout numbers in individual stat categories. They beat Phoenix Rising Ruby in the first week of the season, which was a 2-1 victory in their favor. I guess they had a splash of Medivh in that match, and that was a huge victory in the deciding game 3. So that'll be something to keep out for. Is there going to be a Medivh ban? Is there going to be something reacting to that first game that they've already played? And the first player we wanted to highlight here for Regen Retro is Aaron. Aaron is an off lane for this team. He's played 7 heroes over 12 games, which is a relatively wide hero pool for an off laner. As we talked about in the Bronzer GM segment last week. It looks like in the week 1 match against Phoenix Rising Ruby, he played 3 different heroes in those 3 different matches. And Aaron is currently sitting at the 2nd in the division for XP per game soaked at 17,000 roughly, while the first is, and he's sitting at first in the XP per minute category at 981 XP per minute. There you go. So why don't you talk about Phoenix Rising Ruby for us?
Of course. So Phoenix Rising Ruby, aside from that first week match, which we've talked about, they have not dropped the map since then. Since the loss to Regen Retro in week 1. So they're currently 2nd in the standings, just shy of Regen Retro there. They're sitting 11-4 in map score. They forced a game 3 in the week 1 matchup, but unfortunately did come out not the victor in that matchup. But so they're coming in as the underdog a little bit in this series. Coming in for the rematch. The rematch is always a good story, especially if you're the underdog. You've got just the narrative boost to help you win the game.
Hungry for it.
That's right. So a player we're going to highlight here from Phoenix Rising Ruby, Purple. He's the main damage player on Phoenix Rising Ruby. He's got 52,000 average hero damage, which is 5th in the division, 2.6k damage per minute, which is 4th, and he's also a big Mephisto player, and Orphea, another hero that's had a bit of a rise in popularity and doing pretty well, I think, so far as well in the division so far, since she got changes in patch sort of recently. So
was
those are the
gonna say
go-to heroes
post-buff.
for purple here.
Perfect. And I do appreciate that the A West teams and the players that we've chosen to highlight have much easier names with Aaron and purple. And I guess Monka's is pretty easy. It's just Snag. Snag is just really hard to pronounce. Can't do it. So that's it. All right, guys. Well, that is everything for the game of the week. So that's going to be tomorrow. Tune in. It's going to be an interesting series. It's going to be a full night of HOTS. What more can you ask for? I mean, honestly. So, all right. So our next segment, as you all know, is the bronze or GM segment. And this week we're going to continue what we did last week, where Ryokai and I have no idea what the topics are. We got a little hint for one of them, but other than that, we don't have any idea what the topics are. And Linehouse is going to bring it on down for us. So Linehouse, why don't you take it away?
Alrighty. Well, first, in Snag's defense, his name is literally Shenanigans backwards. That's all it is.
That's a hard word to say forward.
Yeah.
I mean, the shorter version of his name is easier to say, Snag.
All right. So I had Key help me out with this week's bronze GM. We have taken what we feel are somewhat fun stats of all NGS teams up through week 6, so up through week 5 through Stats of the Storm. And I want to see if you two can guess the over-unders on these numbers. So, for example, the very first one is over-under 220 B steps being performed throughout all of NGS Season 9 so far.
Over.
This is the league as the whole.
The league as a whole.
It's got to be over. Yeah,
it's got to be over. You got filthy memers down in D and E with me.
There's no way.
It is over. The actual number is 227.
Oh, so it's not that much over. Okay.
You guys are slacking though. Come on.
I know sprays is nuts.
Speaking of sprays.
Over
under 4,650 sprays so far this season. Over under.
See, if Turd hadn't have said anything, I would have said under, but just the number itself kind of gives me an idea.
There's someone in Div D East or Div D who just has tons of sprays, because I have like 170 and I was like, oh, I got to be towards the top. And then my captain said, no, you're like thousands short or something like that. Whatever it was astronomically high. So I think I'm going to go over too, just because of what I remember from that conversation.
I'll go under, but I expect it to be over.
Rio is correct. It's actually 4,617.
Oh man! Ooh, do you know who's the guy in Div D?
Actually, I just asked for overall numbers. I didn't want to single any team or player out or whatever for this
that makes
fun
sense.
exercise. But I will say,
exercise to the viewer.
I will say, I think the league needs to get their B steps up, because that's only 227 compared to 4,600 sprays. Come on.
You can spray while you're mounted though. So you get a lot of sprays in that early game period.
Dismount and then B step.
So but see, the other thing with the B step is, as we've talked about on Nexus Edge, if this is getting an edge on your competition, the B step figure only counts the first chain. So if you did that for the entire game, it would only count as one.
Yeah, but it's still one
B step. There's a B step metagame that you have to be aware of for sure.
Yeah, you just gotta.
All right, so this is the spicy question of the evening. According to a recent clip of JHow, half of NGS teams are 5 people that play together that don't actually know how to play the game. Do you agree or disagree with that assessment?
What are the other half?
That's a really good question. Arguably a better question.
Yeah. Can you repeat the question? Half of NGS teams are 5 people.
Me read that again.
Play the game.
Rio. So JHow states half of NGS teams are 5 people that play the game together that don't actually know how to play Heroes of the Storm. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Ooh, I'll be spicy. I'll say I agree. Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, that is spicy. Jay
But
who?
no hate to Lord.
I like Jay.
Ooh.
No, I'm reading what Goliath said. I'm sorry. No. Look, that sentence is correct up until that last comma there. I think there's greater than 50% of the teams know what they're doing. I think we can see that paramount if you look at Division D East at least. Those teams, mostly with some exceptions, know what they're doing, I think. And if the teams in Div D know what they're doing, I think you got to give it. I got to assume everyone above them, for the most part, knows what they're doing. At least more than 50%.
You're coming at this with the perspective that a higher-ish, person familiar with HGC and things like that would be looking at things. So
seems logical.
I have to hear why Rio picks the agree then.
I'm actually gonna say no, but like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like you can just play the league for fun. You don't have to know how to play the game. Who cares?
It is an amateur league. That is what it is.
Like,
that's true.
I'm sure the rest of the teams in the league would love if you don't know how to play the game. They would love to win against that would be the greatest thing. You would be so popular. Every team would love having you in the league. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's tough. We're an amateur league. What do you want? I mean, we're not pros. We're not.
Okay, one would argue that Jay Howe needs to learn how to play the game. So I mean,
True. Yeah, but I would say at Division A and Heroic especially, most of those teams there pretty well know how to play the game, and most of them are pretty high-ranking players that either would have played in Open Division or even possibly HGC if that was still around. So
some of them have.
Well, and that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, the other thing is, Jay Howe has actually subbed for a Heroic level team, if I'm not mistaken, last season.
Yeah, I think he played one match, but
with Regen. So maybe he's basing it off
on
of that
team long term and like actually helping, formulate the strategies that you're gonna scout an opponent with or whatever, and what your plan is going to be, what you're practicing, working on communication. That's way different than subbing for a team, I think. So.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. So.
There
we go.
Back to the fun questions.
Good.
So we have the next questions. Oh, again, an over/under. Average to 10, NGS wide. Over/under 6 minutes 30 seconds. Average to level 10.
Over.
I think it's over too, because I'll say over. My reasoning is because I think the Nexus Cats are somewhere in like 7.5 mark.
Yeah, I think the league average is closer to like 8 or 7:30-ish. Wow. Yeah, somewhere around there.
You guys both are correct that it is over, but it's literally 2 seconds over that. 6 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Seconds.
There you go.
Now, interesting enough, I will say this interesting stat because Key was very adamant about it when I got this stat from him. The team there's a team. I'm not gonna say what team it is because I actually don't even know what team it is. That with the worst average to 10 is actually a Heroic team. In all of NGS.
You mean they just take longer to get to level 10?
They just take longer to get there. Now that could also be
I see Ryokai opened up some sort of browser window.
I'm opening a tab. Don't worry about it.
My guess though might be is because Heroic might have maybe they're a bit more crisp on their rotations and everything, so maybe it just takes a little bit longer for some teams to get there. I don't know, but that was an interesting stat to know that a Heroic team is actually one of the ones that takes the longest.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's clear from this who that would be either.
Well, that's good because you're not going to say anyway.
It's kind of weird because Heroic had 3 teams withdraw as well, so there's that.
If they have like one bad game, then
that's true. That's true. And I didn't ask.
Pirates, but...
And I didn't ask. Wow, Rio. We don't want to single any team out. Literally said that earlier.
Is he here?
Anyway,
they withdrew. It's not my fault. You can't get to level 10 faster if you're not playing in the league.
I wonder if it is a withdrawn team. That would make sense.
If you're getting killed, it's hard to soak.
It's hard to soak. Yep. last question.
All right.
Mercs taken. Total mercs taken throughout all of NGS. Over/under 11,170.
Under. I'm an offlaner. I don't take camps.
I think over. I'm gonna say over. I thought you were gonna say Merc like uptime or something.
Oh no.
I have no idea what the stat is. I didn't even know we tracked this. So
all right. So how much under and how much over do you guys want to go with?
Oh, I don't know.
What was the number? 11,000 something?
11,170 mercs taken.
This season.
This season.
Oh yeah, it's only halfway through season 2. Okay. But we have more teams.
2.5.
2 season 2. Okay. But we have more teams. 2 season 2. Okay. But we have more teams. 2 season 2. Okay. But we have more teams. 2 season 2. Okay. But we have more teams. 2 season 2. Okay. But we have more teams.
Oh, you like actually know the stats for like last season?
No, I don't. I didn't even know we tracked this. I knew.
I got no
know
idea,
some
man.
stats from like season 7 really well, and then
Yeah.
like maybe some season 8, but I haven't looked at the stats super closely. How much over? I'm gonna say it's like 13,000.
Okay, and how much under do you think it is, Turd?
I'm gonna guess like 500 less than what you said.
Okay.
They've been pretty close.
It's just
Turd-
straight guess.
Turd is correct. It is under.
Yes.
But I picked it's one number under because I'm an ass. It's 11,169.
Nice.
Nice. 69. The sex number. We did it. Way to go, NGS.
Anyway, that's all for Bronze and GM for topics. So have fun.
All right. Crosby out here quoting me. The segment's called Bronze or GM. Guess which one I am, man. Anyways, that's it for the Bronze or GM segment. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I really like the blind Bronze or GM. It puts me on the spot, so I can't really think of my answers.
Right.
So then I say dumb things. It's great. It's good for everyone involved. But I do want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to my co-host Ryokai. Why don't you tell the people where they could find you?
As always, I'm Ryokai everywhere. I'm on Twitch sometimes. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Reddit. I'm on the Bug Report forums. I'm in Discord. Find me wherever you want. I'm out there.
Perfect. I am Turd Herder Hots on Twitter. If people at me, I'll respond. I am also Turd_Herder on Twitch. As you can see, I just talked earlier today. I want to thank the behind the scenes guy, as always, executive producer Linehouse, who you just heard from. I want to also thank Key, who helps us with the Bronze and GM segment this week, but also helps us with coming up with interesting players, stats, and teams. And then also to Falendrith, obviously, for his Stats of the Storm system, which would make this job a whole lot more difficult if we did not have. But this is Turd here saying adios, amigos. Remember to stay safe in the Nexus and take your hots to the edge.